Hello everyone, and welcome to Right Wing Rising. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel if you are new and like this video down below before you're finished watching. Now, for today's video, we're going to be talking about something very new to this channel, and that is a series of videos that I'm going to be making leading up to the 2024 election called 240ToWin. Some of you might have heard of the 270ToWin website, predictions for presidential, House, Senate races, and it's named that because you need 270 electoral votes to win the presidency of the United States. The reason I'm calling this series of videos 240ToWin is because there are about 240 races between primary races and actual general election contests happening in November that are the most competitive and important elections that will be happening in 2024. We are a little more than 6 months away from the general election in the fall, and in that time I will be making videos talking about all of those races that I see as the most close, the most competitive, and definitely the most important. That's why there will be some primary races happening in there too. Because while it is important that Donald Trump wins the presidency back this fall from Joe Biden, the presidency is far from the only thing, and the president does not have any real power if he does not have the rest of the government that is supporting him and his policy agenda. That's why it's very important that we elect strong conservatives, good Republicans to all levels of government at the federal, state, and local levels that will enable him, not hinder him, if he is elected once again, to actually enact his agenda. And as I said, we need both the best possible people in there, and we also need as big of a majority as possible in Congress, and we also need to control as many elected offices around the country as possible. So it is really important to see which of those offices are possible for us as conservatives and Republicans to be able to control. And while 240 competitive, or at least important and closely contested elections might seem like a lot, when there's 50 states, it really shouldn't be that surprising. That's about 5 races per state. Now, the point of this video to kick off this whole series is that there are 10 states that really show no competitive races within their borders. So basically 40 of the 50 states have at least 1 or 2 races that should be interesting to watch, if not an all-out competitive toss-up race. So these are the 10 states that you can expect to not hear much about, both from me going forward, but also in the November elections. So without further ado, let's get into those 10 states to kick this series off. And I have made a tier list over here, one for states that have lots of close races, one for states that have some races to watch, maybe like 1 to 3 races that will be competitive. And then the last tier, which we will be filling out today, these states that have no competitive races to be watching for. So without further ado, let's start listing them off. And the first one will be the state of Kentucky. Donald Trump won Kentucky with 62% of the vote in 2020, almost a 30-point margin of victory. This is not a state that Biden will be contesting. It is a state that has been reliably Republican in the past, but it is very, very favorable territory for Donald Trump. He has made the state shift right off of a cliff to the point where there are supermajorities in the state legislature. The Republicans hold all statewide offices except for the governorship, which I expect they will flip next time around when the current Democrat governor is term limited. There is no Senate race happening this year, and even if it was, it would be super Republican. And all House races are either safe Republican or the one Democrat seat is going to be safe Democrat. So nothing to talk about here in Kentucky. Next, we move to the state of Tennessee. Let's find that flag right here. Tennessee, Trump also got over 60% in the state, winning it by about 23 points back in 2020. It is a state that has become a reliably conservative hotbed and will continue to be so. There's also a Senate race happening there in the fall, with the incumbent Senator Marsha Blackburn running for re-election, and she won election to a first term by 11 points in 2018. It was a Democrat favorable midterm where they did well all across the country, and a lot of races swung against Republicans, and this was also Marsha Blackburn's election to her first term, so it was an open seat, giving Democrats a little bit more of an advantage without having an incumbent to run against. And a lot of high-profile Democrats came out in support of the Democrat nominee, Phil Bredesen, including Taylor Swift, because of course it's in Nashville. She was more of a country music star at that time, and she's also a big liberal, so of course she would endorse the Democrat from the country music state. But Marsha Blackburn still won handily despite that, and with Donald Trump being on the same ballot as her, she will definitely win by a larger margin, especially now that she is in the incumbent. And Tennessee in the House, all the Republican seats will be safe. Tennessee's 5th district, the representative there was elected to a first term back in 2022 and still won by 13.5 points. And again, we'll probably do better with Donald Trump on the ballot, especially now being the incumbent. And that is the closest race that you're going to find in Tennessee, with only one seat being Democrat and that one being reliably Democrat. So next up is the state of Louisiana, we see here, with the pelican on their state flag. And we move over to the presidential race from 2020 here in Louisiana. Trump won it by almost 20 points, getting 58.5 percentage points. And we also can see in 2016, he won by a similar margin, getting exactly 58% and winning by a little bit more only because Hillary Clinton did about a point worse than Joe Biden did. There is no Senate race happening in Louisiana in 2024. All the House seats are safe Republican or safe Democrat. Due to redistricting, one of the Republican seats held by the incumbent Garrett Graves has become more Democrat favorable, but he is very favored to lose that seat since it has become such a left-leaning seat now that it should be safe Democrat, so even that's not worth talking about. Now, moving over to our next state, that will be the state of Arkansas, where Donald Trump won by almost 30 points in 2016, getting 16.5 percentage points. In 2020, he did even better. He got over 62% of the vote, inching even closer to getting almost a 30-point margin of victory. There used to be a close House seat there that was decided by a few points, but after redistricting following the 2020 election, Republicans made it into a safer red seat. Just like a lot of states we just talked about, there are no competitive down-ballot races happening in Arkansas. As we can see, Trump will not be losing the state of Arkansas, as we can see basically an entirely dark red map here of the state back in 2016, and it only got darker in the 2020 election. So up next, we have the state of Oklahoma, found here. And in this state, we see that Trump did not lose a single county in 2020, getting 65% of the vote, basically exactly double, actually more than double the percentage of the vote that Joe Biden received. This is a state that is so reliably Republican, it's actually unbelievable. It's only got more Republican as the years have gone on. The closest House race in 2022 was a 22-point Republican victory by Stephanie Bice in Oklahoma's 5th. So you can say that this is a state that the outcomes are already locked and loaded. All 5 House seats are Republican. It's a state that will not be competitive in the least and will definitely provide some easy victories for Republicans. Next, moving on to the state of Vermont. We have a reliably Democrat state that gives Joe Biden a margin of victory that will be bigger than Trump's in Oklahoma. As in 2020, he got 66% of the vote, conversely getting double of Donald Trump's margin in the state, as Trump barely cleared 30% in the state and narrowly picked off a single county in the northeastern corner of Vermont. Just like in Massachusetts, the state that it borders to the south, we can see that Joe Biden, again, got basically double Donald Trump's margin of victory. Trump could not manage to win a single county in the state, getting shellacked 66 to 32%. Like I said, New England leans obviously pretty Democrat and pretty liberal, and Massachusetts and Vermont are the poster childs of the political ideology of the Northeast. And for that reason, we do not need to pay attention to them. Similar to Oklahoma, for the Republicans, the closest House race in Massachusetts will probably be won by Democrats by about 20 points. So nothing down ballot to watch. And certainly at the presidential level, Vermont and Massachusetts will be uncontested by Donald Trump. Next, we move to Wyoming. And this state is very, very Trump friendly. He got 68% of the vote in 2016 to Hillary Clinton's 21%. Absolutely unbelievable. And he actually improved his margin in 2020, getting 69.94% of the vote, almost getting exactly 70. Look for him to do that in 2024 this year. I would not be surprised at all. He won the state by a whopping 43 points against Joe Biden. This is obviously a state that will not be contested by the Democrats. You can see they won 2 counties. One of them, you can see, is Soleil Blue. They barely won it. I don't know the exact vote count, but they must have barely won it if it's light blue. And you can see how dark red all the red counties are. It's unbelievable how much Donald Trump won this state by. It's probably the most Republican state in the country, and luckily does not have Liz Cheney as the representative for the state anymore in Congress, given how Trump-friendly the state is. And in 2018, there's a Senate race there happening this year. John Barrasso is running for re-election. He similarly got 67% of the vote, even in 2018 in a Democrat midterm. This is a state that Democrats probably will spend $0 in this year, and really any year going forward in the near future. So we moved to South Dakota next, the home of Mount Rushmore. Donald Trump won this state with almost 62% of the vote, nearly a 30-point margin of victory. The down-ballot races happening there in the House of Representatives and state legislature will be equally uncompetitive. This is a safe Republican state and will be so for a long, long time. And last but not least, of the 10 states that will be the least competitive this year, we have the state of Idaho, where Donald Trump won with 64% of the vote in 2020, clearing a 30-point margin of victory. Just like South Dakota, Wyoming, and so many of the other states we just talked about, the down-ballot races in the House and the state legislature will not be competitive. Republicans will win a large majority of the vote up and down the ballot. There are 2 districts for the United States House in Idaho, and one of the 2 districts has one of the worst representatives in the country, in Mike Simpson. He's a massive rhino, but unfortunately he does not have a major primary challenger, so he will probably win renomination, so there's really not much to talk about in that primary. But with that unfortunate exception, conservatives will continue to have a strong foothold and control of the state of Idaho. So these are the 10 states here. This is what it looks like on the map. 8 of the 10 are safe Republican, and obviously Vermont and Massachusetts and New England are the 2 of the 10 states that will be safe Democrat. The other 40 states, even though there might be some surprises in there when you're looking at the map, because there are some other safe Republican or safe Democrat states of the 40 states that I still have listed as toss-up. They won't all be toss-ups for all of the races, obviously, but there are some races that are either going to be complete toss-ups, competitive, or have some primaries that are important to determine if a good Republican or a bad Republican will be nominated for a certain office. So take a good long look at these 10 states here. 2 in the Northeast, 5 in the South, 3 in the West. You will not be seeing or hearing much of these 10 states in the next 6 months. Again, Republicans should waste no energy in these states, as there are plenty of races, 240 races to be exact, in the other 40 states that will be a lot more competitive and a lot more important and doable to win for the future of our country. And you can certainly expect to hear a lot about each and every one of them from me in the coming weeks and months. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back with another video very soon.